Greetings, beloved Princeton United Methodist Church community. It's Pastor Jenny here with an update for you, and I'm reading today from Genesis chapter 2, verses 7 and 8. Then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground, and he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed. This is the word of life. Thanks be to God. So as we continue our curiosity series, we step into this really kind of treacherous ground of the relationship between religion and science. This has been such a challenging space for many of us, very personally, but certainly for our world, our greater culture, for a very, very, very long time. I wonder what some of your conversations, what some of your learnings, what some of your explorations of the world, how your curiosity about the created existence, the universe, has impacted your faith. You know, I have been long fascinated by this, and as I imagine so many of you have too, and how this has entered into much bigger questions, right? From, even just recently, how we as people of faith deal with the COVID and science and vaccinations and all these things. This is big stuff that impacts our actual day-to-day life and our communities. This is the kind of stuff that has ended up in Supreme Court battles and continues to be part of what we debate in our public sphere all the time. We also know, and maybe again, this has been part of your experience, that sometimes faith leads us to science. Sometimes science leads us to faith. Sometimes faith leads us away from science, and sometimes science leads us away from faith. It is such a complex interweaving of things, and it becomes even more fascinating when we think about how long ago there was a convergence, a complete connection between faith and science, and how these two things have walked together and fought huge battles amongst us, through people in this world, since the beginning, I think, of time, since the beginning that we've had this sense that these two things can be in conflict with each other. So we're going to dive into all this more on Sunday, but I wonder, just for you in this moment, what has your experience been? How have you and your faith and your curiosity about the world, your relationship with science, how have they been connected to one another? How have they diverged? How has this impacted your relationships? How has this impacted your faith? How has it impacted the choices that you make and the conversations we have? It is such a pervasive and sticky topic. And it's also really exciting and really interesting and compelling too. So again, we'll dive more deeply into this on Sunday, and welcome more of your questions. We have it's been fun to see what more of your questions are, and I encourage you to dialogue with one another about some of these questions that you see. We're going to put up another graphic for you in this email that shares some of the questions that we have received, and again, it's less about the answers. It's less about coming to a conclusion or finding that everything has a nice, neat answer, but more about how do we live in the questions? How do we keep exploring? How do we let curiosity guide our life of faith and of science as people in the world who are naturally curious? How do we foster that and let that enliven us as individuals, as a community of people together? So I encourage you to keep dialoguing, and I know that it's not always easy to do that when we don't have names, and so we're going to keep inviting you to do it anyway. Keep figuring out how to connect with each other. Maybe you're not even finding the person who has that particular question, who asked it, who put it down on paper, but you're letting the questions be conversation topics that you have with one another all the same. So, as usual, lots of things going on in the life of our church. We have a newcomers group that has started, and if you are somebody who is newer to this congregation, this community, and would like to know more about what that is, remember that we have several ways to be able to do that. You can join us in person. You can join us via Zoom. You can also join us asynchronously. So that means that you can work through the course on your own with some moderation. Like I go in and converse through our online campus there. So even if you're not available, or the person you know who's newer to this community is not available on Sundays at 11:30, that they can still participate and join in the life of our congregation. So even if this isn't you, if you know of somebody, you've met somebody recently that you think would be a wonderful connection for our congregation, then please let them know and connect them in this way. So in the newcomers group, we talk about we get to know each other. Relationships is one of our aims, but it's also learning about the greater United Methodist Church, learning more about Princeton United Methodist Church, learning about how we talk about discipleship here at Princeton UMC, including baptism and membership vows, and what it looks like to be part of our community of faith here. So I invite you to spread the word, to invite people. And again, even if they've never stepped foot in our church, or maybe they haven't even joined us online for worship, then it's an opportunity for you to think, who would you like to add to this community? Who would you like to bring in and share your church family with? Just to let you know too, our leadership board and our discipleship board are continuing to kick off. Our leadership board is working on budgeting this next week or so, and we'll be sharing more about that with you. Our discipleship board is beginning their work too. We're setting priorities around some of the ways that we want to focus our energy around things that you've already gotten to give some input around, our strategic plan and our vision. And we're setting off to do some work, which we hope that means that you will be engaged in. So if there are particular ways that you are excited about, we will link for you some of the things that are going on, some of those different priorities and things that you can join in on some of this work. We would love to get to know you better and to help figure out how to engage you in ministry, in being an active part of us moving into our vision. So our leadership team is also working on some of these things, and we would love to hear from you, and we're going to keep creating ways for you to tell us what you're interested in too. I know that just tell us you're interested is a hard thing to respond to at times. So we're continuing to work on that. But if you are feeling like you particularly would like to give more, that would be a wonderful thing for you to send in an email to me or to Lindsay Donaldson, who is the chair of our nominations and lay leadership team, to Iona Harding or Laverna Albury, who are the chairs of our leadership and discipleship boards. Any of us would be happy to receive your input and your thoughts about any of this, and that we can keep moving forward. So, but stay tuned and feel free to let us know all these things too. Friends, it is always a joy to be with you in ministry, in this journey of faith. It is an honor to get to keep reminding myself and all of us together that we are created for joy. We are God's beloved. And remember that God is well pleased with you. You are God's child, son, daughter, child, and that is such a beautiful core thing. May we remember this to the core of our being and let it let us know that we are certainly enough, because God is enough. God created us and brought us into being. Blessings.